For some, the greatest pressure and the greatest difficulty facing them after a wonderful holiday like these Richmond holidays that many of us here have been enjoying over this last week or 2 weeks is returning home to the pressures of emails and to the weight and burden of work and family responsibilities. So we've given some thought to how we could reintegrate maybe a little better, take some of the lessons that we might have learnt and put them into practice when we get back home. And we want to suggest 4 things that might help when you return from your holiday. I suppose the first is that you take some time to land softly, to let the body kind of reset, not to kind of rush into work, not to rush into deadlines, but to land softly in the sense of taking some time to consider over these kind of next few weeks up till Christmas how best to survive. I suppose the second thing that we want, so land softly, but the second thing was this, and that is to capitalise, to make the most of maybe some of the fresh perspectives that you got when you were on holiday. And that might fall into kind of 3 aspects. There may be certain things that we may have to end when we get back home. There may be some things that we need to continue doing once we get back home, but there's also going to be some new beginnings. There may be certain things that you've been thinking about while you've been away on holiday that you now know you need to put to death, you need to stop doing. And that for some of us can be a really tricky thing. But there's certainly going to be a whole range of things that we will continue doing. And maybe it's important for us to be remembering all the time that this period of limbo where we're not really too certain what we should stop doing, and yet we're not really clear about what we should be doing in the future, is a time of great creativity. And the danger for some is that they rush into new beginnings or they rush into closing things down, and they don't use the time. The time, for example, that the Israelites had when they were in the wilderness. They'd left one thing and they were just about to re-engage in the promised land, but over this period they grow up as individuals. So maybe we need a little list of things, what we're going to stop doing, what we're going to continue doing for the time being, and what we're going to start. And that leads me to the third thing. For some of us, we need to revisit the spiritual disciplines again. There's a story, isn't there, in the New Testament in Mark 9 of the disciples with Jesus on the mountainside, having this wonderful experience in his presence. And for many, a time of teaching or a time of relaxation can be a time of great refreshment. And then what happens after that story is they come off the mountainside and into the valley, and they're presented with a challenge. It's the challenge of a boy who's convulsing and unwell. And Jesus says to the disciples that this problem can only be dealt with by prayer. My encouragement to you would be to revisit some of the great spiritual disciplines of prayer again when you get back. The discipline of silence, the discipline of resting, the discipline of reading, the discipline of study, the discipline of having meals with your family, which you might not have been doing, and now you've been doing over the holiday, and you've realized that having meals together is such a valuable thing. The discipline of rest, the discipline of exercise too. You've probably done some exercise this holiday, and it's going to be really important that you continue that. Jesus says this is only going to come out by prayer. I think he's talking about a discipline for us. And then finally, just to kind of bring this to a close, maybe this is a really good time when you're on the plane or you're in the car on the way back home to discuss booking another Richmond holiday in the future.